and welcome to Crypto Convos, episode 11. I'm your host, MK Lords, and joining me today is my good friend Chris Pacia of Bitcoin Not Bombs, and he also designed the new Bitcoin Authenticator app that we'll be talking about a little bit later. I'm really excited to do this interview. Chris and I met at ForkFest the year before this one, so last year, and he was spending Bitcoin probably more than everyone else there, and I had just gotten into Bitcoin at the time, and I remember that he tipped me for my fire hooping, which was really cool. That was my only Bitcoin tip that I got that whole year at PorkFest. So it was really cool, and he's been working really hard on this new app that we're going to be talking about really soon. I spent a lot of time this year at PorkFest working on it very diligently, and it's really, really awesome. So we'll get to that in just a minute, but first things first, how's it going, comrade?
I'm doing pretty good, yeah.
Doing great, doing great. So I ask all my guests this. What is your personal philosophy, and how has it changed throughout the years? Kind of where did you start, and how did you end up where you are now?
Um, well, I consider myself a anarchist, libertarian anarchist. How did I get here? Well, I grew up in a pretty conservative household, so from conservatism to libertarianism to anarchism over the course of, I don't know, 5 years or so, something like that. Yeah, that's where I am now.
All right, and what was your background kind of before you got into libertarianism, or at least into the Bitcoin space? What were you doing?
Um, well, I have an MBA, a business degree. I have a little bit of computer science experience, not a whole lot. I was telling Matt Whitlock the other day, both me and him back in the 1990s with AOL, we programmed these like punters to punt people off the internet. But that was pretty much the extent of my programming experience before then. But yeah, I kind of picked it up again, beginning of this year, and it's been going pretty good so far.
Awesome. So how did you first find out about Bitcoin, and what were your initial thoughts?
Um, well, I was a couple years ago. I mean, I still am, but I had a pretty large interest in like monetary economics. So I spent a lot of time thinking about money and what would make an ideal money, and I think kind of how most libertarians seem to have a little bit of a aversion to Bitcoin at first, and I guess that was kind of my reaction. I kind of regretted it because I could have bought Bitcoin when it was like 50 cents, um, but no, I started looking into it more. I don't know, in 2012, 2011, late 2011 maybe. And it really wasn't until I kind of like dug in and kind of learned how it works and the protocol that it kind of put all my concerns to rest, and I've been involved in it ever since.
That's awesome. And what I really, you have a personal blog too called Escape Velocity, and I actually learned a lot about Bitcoin just from reading that, because you have such a way of explaining things. You're able to simplify it really well. So what made you kind of inspired to start writing? Because you also write for Bitcoin Not Bombs, and I probably learned the most from your articles there as editor. So it's always very fascinating on the technical side of things. So what got you into writing?
I don't know. I was just looking for something to do, really, some way to contribute. I think you were one of the few people who told me that I have a pretty good way of explaining things. So I figured, let me see what's going on, and I started just writing some intro posts for Bitcoin, which has actually been pretty popular. A lot of people have told me they've come out really good. I haven't got to write that much lately. I've just been writing a ton of code, but I'd like to write more. So we'll see when I have time.
Yeah, I definitely recommend a lot of your posts to people who are new to Bitcoin, because it's very clear and concise too. And what is kind of the difference? Because I've been looking a little into programming. I come from the more writing side of things, but a lot of people have told me that writing code is another form of language. It's kind of another form of writing. So what are kind of the subtle differences between writing as maybe a blog post or an article explaining something versus writing code?
Writing code is a lot about like problem solving. You have a certain goal that you want to achieve, and you kind of have to plan it out in your mind how you're actually going to achieve it, and so you're constantly kind of trying to solve one problem after another until you make it work the way you want. It's I don't know. It's like a different way of thinking. I guess you have to. It's pretty abstract at times.
Hmm. It's interesting, but I do find it's interesting that you take a problem-solving approach to it, and that seems like it would also, if you are writing, maybe explanatory articles or something like that, it can maybe help you have a clearer writing style, just and maybe not code, but just writing in general, because you already have a maybe process in mind that you go through, and then you have an end result that you're trying to get to. So, yeah, I don't know. Have you found that it's there's some kind of synergistic effect there?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm in like two different modes when I'm writing for people and writing code. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's kind of like two different sets of problems, and I don't know. Maybe I approach them a little differently, but.
Okay, that's interesting. So, what inspired you to create this Bitcoin Authenticator app?
Well, starting early this year, maybe late last year, we saw kind of like a flurry of people putting out these multi-signature wallets. Which for people who don't aren't familiar with the technology, the idea is, quite a few bit of people have gotten their Bitcoin stolen, just keeping their keys on their computer. And these multi-signature wallets, the idea is that you create addresses that have more than one key and require more than one key to sign a transaction. And these services that were being created, I'm thinking like BitGo or Green Address, ones like this, they will keep your second key. One key will be kept in your wallet. The second set of keys would be kept on their server. And whenever you want to make a transaction, you have to forward your transaction to their server so that they can sign it with their key. And that provides a pretty good level of security, but it doesn't provide a pretty good level of privacy because you're sending all your transactions to somebody else for them to look at, to keep logs if they want. You always have to worry about them being subpoenaed, or maybe they get like a national security letter or something like this. So this is like a service that I wanted to use. I just didn't want to use it in a way that was compromising my privacy and sending all my transactions to someone else. So there was nothing existed out there to do that. So I just figured, let me see if I can't write it myself. I really didn't have any. This is how the project just started out, as an Android app. So the idea was you 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 would keep this would be a 2 of 2 multi-sig, so you'd have one set of keys kept in your wallet, and the other set of keys would be kept on your phone. And instead of forwarding the transaction to a trusted server, you would just send it to your phone, and then you get a little notification on your phone asking you to approve it. And doing it that way, of course, you're not compromising your privacy. So this was an Android app, and I didn't really have any experience, with Android or what have you. So I was just like, I asked around for a couple people if they wanted to help work on the project, and people were, no, not really. So I was like, well, okay, let me see if I can't just write this myself. So I just, I don't know, kind of dug into Java and Android, and I don't know, I spent a couple months just sort of familiarizing myself with it, and then maybe was it around April or so, I kind of had like a little prototype available. I put out like a YouTube video, and at that time I was just using a little command line wallet that I wrote that was linking up with this with my phone, and I got a lot of good feedback from that. And that's when at that point in time, my other, who's now my partner on the project, Alone Marak, he just messaged me and was like, "Hey, you mind if I work on this with you?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So he kind of joined, and we kind of made a more sort of polished version of the Android app. And I was still kind of thinking at the time, I wanted to kind of try to persuade some developers to incorporate this into their wallets. And I got a little bit of feedback from some people who were like, hey, I'd like to use that, but they were like kind of obscure wallets that nobody really uses. So I was thinking maybe I'll just like fork something like Multibit and make so Multibit can integrate with this. But it was at that time Mike Hearn suggested to us. He's like, how about you just use the Bitcoin J library and just create a wallet to go along with this. Because Bitcoin J is a pretty complete library, so it's the whole kind of guts of the wallet are mostly already written. You just kind of have to more or less kind of make the user interface that's going to go along with it, with some tweaks here or there to make it work with the Android app. So initially, I was thinking, okay, I'll just make like a little demo wallet that people can use and test it out. But so, for a while I've kind of always, I've tried out just about every Bitcoin wallet that's out there, and I find all of them kind of lacking in one area or another. Either, they don't really have a great user interface, or maybe they're not very private, or they connect to a trusted server or something like this. So this kind of gave me the opportunity. I was like, well, if I'm building a wallet, I might as well try to make one that solves all the problems that I find with these other Bitcoin wallets, and I just might as well make something that I want to use, since there really aren't any wallets out there that sort of meet all my requirements. So that we've been working on since, I don't know, I probably started working on the wallet maybe in May, April or May, and so we kind of have an alpha version out now. So we have a wallet that's a pretty darn good wallet that now links up with this Android app, and so you can do two-factor multi-sig. You make a transaction on the wallet, and it'll send it over to the Android app for approval. You just get a little notification pops up on your phone, and it's coming along pretty cool. Just the other day on IRC, Mike Hearn messaged Gavin Andreessen. He was like, hey, you remember that how you wanted a wallet that links to your smartphone? And Gavin was like, yeah. And he's like, well, it now exists. So, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, and I mean, we're doing some other stuff with it, trying to make this I'm trying to make it like a really kind of private wallet to go as well. I don't know how familiar people kind of are with the sort of back ends of the wallet, but there are really no lightweight wallets out there at the moment that can really claim to offer their users a reasonable degree of privacy. Most of them, you might have like Electrum, or I'm not exactly sure what Dark Wallet's doing with the state of their prefix filtering, but basically most of them link up to a server. And you have two problems when you send your transactions and when you download your transactions from the network. How do you do that privately without kind of giving away what addresses are in your wallet? And most of these, you just kind of hand your addresses over to a server and say, hey, give me the transactions that go with these addresses. And of course, then the server knows exactly what addresses are in your wallet. And you might say, well, I connect to the server through Tor, which you can do, but still, it's pretty trivial to, if someone can link your identity to even a single address, then your entire transaction history is compromised. And so every time you make a transaction, at least one other party, knows what that address is. So there's potential for some pretty serious privacy leaks there, and that's something I'm looking at addressing. Back in 2012, they implemented the core developers implemented something called Bloom filtering into the core protocol to support lightweight wallets. And this idea is, instead of downloading, you have kind of two extremes. On the one hand, you just hand your addresses over to either a server or a peer and say, give me the transactions for these addresses. And you have no privacy if you do that. On the other hand, you can download all the transactions from the blockchain, and there's currently 33 million addresses, so you'd be downloading the transaction history for all of them. Bloom filtering is kind of like a middle ground. So you might, instead of downloading, let's say, 33 million addresses, you might download the transaction history for maybe, say, like 15,000, of which your addresses are included in that 15,000. So you have a smaller anonymity set, but it's still a pretty good anonymity set. They're not going to know which ones out of that, say 15,000 or 30,000, actually belong to you. The problem with Bloom filtering as it's currently implemented is it's just riddled with privacy leaks. In fact, there was even a paper, some academic researchers published a paper analyzing the privacy implications of Bloom filtering as it's currently used, and it's just really bad. So that's used in, well, really the only wallets using that are Bitcoin J-based wallets. Ours is one of them, so we use the current Bloom filtering. So Multibit, Hive, the Android Bitcoin wallet are other ones. And so, I mean, there are ways that you can potentially fix the Bloom filtering so that it doesn't leak privacy. And I'm thinking about doing so requires, at the moment, some like really kind of awkward hacks that don't work very well. So I'm actually thinking about proposing like a little BIP, a tiny change to the Bloom filtering specification that would allow you to use the Bloom filtering without having all of those privacy leaks. So we'll see how that goes. If we get that working, and if I can get that merged into the core, then that would it would kind of finally allow us to build a lightweight wallet that can offer a reasonable degree of privacy to people.
That's awesome. And security is always such an issue, especially as more people start using Bitcoin. A lot of them, you know, maybe don't know about the security precautions they can take or need to take to protect their coins. So they need something that's kind of easier to use, too. Not a lot of people are also going to be willing to do the kind of heavier research into it. So it seems like it kind of, you know, can solve that problem a bit. So is there anyone else working on the team other than you and the person you mentioned? Are you having other people helping out, or?
Just the two of us. I mean, we've gotten some feedback from like Mike Hearn. Mike actually gave us a list of like 20 things he wants us to fix for the alpha version. So I'm kind of like going through his list. So I think he's pretty excited about the project. I think, you know, anytime somebody builds something on top of his library, I think he's pretty ecstatic about it.
Yeah, and you've released it in alpha mode so people can test it and check it out. So that's really interesting, and it seems like you really put it together very quickly from the time the idea came to you to, you know, now it's in alpha mode and can be tested. So do you think you could give us we're going to try to use this screen share app here. Do you think you could give us a quick rundown of how it works?
Yeah. Let me bring up the screen cast. All right, you can see the screen, right?
Yes.
All right. I'm running Linux here, but we do have for Windows and Mac, we have self-contained packages that package Java runtime into it. So it should run on Windows and on Mac. It should run like a normal application. Like you really shouldn't even have to mess with Java at all. But I'm having a hard time building a self-contained Linux package for the moment. It keeps crashing when it starts up. So for now, I'm just going to run jar file. All right, so this is the wallet. What you can see it doing right here, or what it already just did, this actually is the only wallet at the moment that connects to Tor by default. So we're using an internal Tor client inside the wallet, So almost every other wallet, if you want to use Tor, you have to download some extra software, and you have to have that running in the background, and then you got to go into settings and configure your proxy settings. This does it automatically. So you mentioned earlier people not kind of wanting to, take a long time to learn how to use stuff. That's kind of what we're trying to do here, is build a wallet that people can just kind of open up and it works to, protect their privacy without them having to, learn the technology behind it, or even learn what Tor is. It just, just open it up and it starts up. So I don't know why it's taking a while to connect to the network there. Okay. Anyway, so we are connected to Tor right now, and it's trying to connect to the actual Bitcoin network over Tor. So, I mean, this is, right now, it's just kind of has some basic send and receive functionality. We did add some extra stuff into here. So this is, if you guys are familiar with OneName, OneName is kind of like, it's a way of kind of a protocol that designed by Ryan and Manib, that it embeds, you can embed like profile data, including your Bitcoin address, into the Namecoin blockchain, and then you can kind of store it in sort of a decentralized manner. So what I did just there was I just entered my OneName, and it kind of pulled my avatar from the Namecoin blockchain. Or I should say from the Namecoin blockchain, but at the moment we're kind of going through OneName server, kind of using it as a proxy. But what that allows you to do is we can enter, let's say, somebody's Bitcoin address instead of, or I should say, instead of entering their Bitcoin address, you can just enter their, oops, oh, I'm on testnet, I can't show that off. Okay.
We're just going to wait just a second. We'll see if you can jump back on. I know screen share sometimes has a tendency to crash also. So this is definitely an exciting project, and I will be testing it out soon. I need to, let me see if I can get the link up for you guys. Hopefully me using screen share won't crash it. Stand by. So yes, it is bitcoinauthenticator.org. You'll definitely want to check that out. Very interesting, and it looks like it's pretty easy to use too, which is definitely needed. This is kind of a look. You can see a bit of an overview here. Download the alpha version. Download for Android. And all these awesome features. And I really like the OneName integration. Basically, I think where he was about to go with this, and he did show me a little bit of it at PorcFest, you'd be able to put in the OneName ID instead of just a Bitcoin address. So if you already have a OneName ID, you can already match the wallet up to that and say, I want to send this person Bitcoin by their name. So it's very easy to search for people, if they're already using that, and kind of simplifies things. All right.
I'm sitting here talking to myself.
Hey, Chris.
I don't know, how much did you see? Did you see any of the screencast?
Yeah, it was definitely showing. You got right to the part about the OneName ID, and it kicked you out. So I did kind of go into that a little bit. To the people who are viewing, looks like we have one viewer, so thanks for hanging in there. So I kind of discussed that a little bit, but feel free to keep going if you'd like. Hopefully, I don't know if it was the usage of screen have crashed it, or if it was another issue. Hangouts has can be a little bit testy. So
Yeah, I have a bad internet connection too, so that could be it.
yeah, that'll do it. Yeah.
Um, did you see the part where I was talking about the different types of accounts? No?
I was muted. Yeah, I don't believe so. It cut out right as you were talking about the one name ID.
Okay. Um, all right, so basically we derive this from a single seed, but it can allow us to also create. See, now we finally connected to the test network. It must have been my internet connection. Um, we can create different accounts. I know, like Dark Wallet, they call them pockets. But so what I've done here, you can pretty much create as many as you want. I've just created one called Spending and Saving. This is using regular Bitcoin addresses. These start with M and N because these are testnet addresses. These are the regular kind of one signature address. Created a second. This is your multi-sig addresses. They start with a 2 on the test network. So you can create. You don't have to use it with just multi-sig if you don't have an Android app. You can still use the wallet. You just won't be able to use the multi-sig feature. But you can still use it like a normal wallet. And then we're also, another thing that's kind of cool, I'm working with Coinapult here. We're going to implement their locks. So it's going to be like a third type of account. So you could create like a locked account and then send your money into the locked account, and that would basically maintain whatever value you peg it at. You peg it to dollars or euro or gold or what have you, and then you can, if you want, you can transfer the coins back into your other accounts afterwards. That's something we're ultimately going to hook up. What else do we have? All right, so let me just show how this works on the testnet. All right, so this is the multi-sig address. I'm just going to copy that and have the testnet send some coins. Okay, so we received some coins, 0.15 Bitcoin. Here's our transaction here. Now, if I want to send it, I'll send it back to the faucet. Okay, we'll do 0.9. Oops. So we give you a little overview of the transaction, the inputs, outputs, change address, the fee, and what have you. And then when you click send, you get this little screen popping up here telling you that a message has been sent to your phone asking you for authorization. And I don't have my phone on screencast, but if you take a look at it, I just got a little notification on my phone here, and it's telling me that coins are being sent to the MSJ42 address. And when I head off, you can see it received the transaction, and there we go. So success, and that's it. So we just made a multi-sig transaction with the phone authorizing it. So it works pretty good. I just have to. There's some like issues relating to the networking between the apps. I kind of have to get straightened out. If the phone is connected on the same Wi-Fi as your network, it should work every time. The issue comes in where if you're using like 4G or 3G, then we have to use like and you're behind the router, then we have to use like universal plug and play to try and map the port on your router, and that's kind of unreliable. So that's kind of one of the issues that we have. But you don't have to use it on 3G or 4G. Use it on Wi-Fi; it should work fine.
All right, that looks great. So what other tweaks do you need to make for it to be ready, and when do you expect it to be ready for release? For past
This
alpha
is
stage.
something just crashed. Yeah. Um, most of the issues that we have right now are just kind of like UI related. Like I don't know if you saw, like when I received the address, like this refreshed like more times than it really needed to, and it's just like little tiny stuff like this. I have to kind of clean this up, make it look a little better. Yeah, it's mostly just kind of UI fixes. Apparently, this Mike has a Retina display on his Apple or Mac MacBook, and apparently it doesn't look very good on the Retina display. Some of the images are don't have enough pixels, and so it's stuff like that that I have to fix. But the back end of it seems to be working fine with the issue of our kind of like little network issue. So the plan is we're going to keep kind of incrementing the alpha version as we implement more of these fixes. Like probably this week we're going to put out like 0.1.1, and then maybe next week 0.1.2, and just keep incrementing that. We don't have a whole lot to do in order to get like a stable version. And then once it's completely stable and all those little bugs are fixed, then we're going to move on to implementing some of these apps like the Coinapult, which I talked about. I still haven't done the address book. I was going to make a Bitcoin Not Bombs app. I haven't done that yet, so you can donate to charity right from inside the wallet. Coinbase buyback, coin control. So these things are stuff that we're still looking to implement. The big one that I'm really, really excited about is this CoinJoin that I started work on. So earlier this year, Tim Ruffing, who's a cryptographer at university in Germany, him and some other cryptographers, they published a paper called CoinShuffle, where they basically outline a method that you can do a CoinJoin transaction without kind of giving away your privacy, or the input-output mapping, basically where you're sending the coins to. The other participants in the transaction won't learn it. Now, up to this point, at this point we really only have two CoinJoin implementations in Bitcoin. There's the blockchain.info one called Shared Coin, and then there's dark wallets. Now, neither of them are really kind of like an ideal CoinJoin implementation. So blockchain.info, you still there, Megan? I just want to make
Yes,
sure
I am.
Before I continue. Okay, there you are. So blockchain.info, when you send when you do a CoinJoin transaction with them, you're sending the CoinJoin data to their server, and their server knows basically where you're sending the coins to. So the CoinJoin is like it's an improvement over the old kind of traditional mixers, in the sense that with a mixer they could theoretically steal your coins, right? You're sending them to an address that someone else controls, and they could have run away with your coins. CoinJoin prevents them from being able to run away with your coins because you're kind of doing a joint transaction, and you won't sign it unless the transaction contains your output address. But it doesn't inherently solve the privacy problems, and so blockchain.info still has the problem where you're sending your coins to another server, and that server knows basically where you're sending them to. With Dark Wallet, they do it a little bit differently. Their server, and this is my understanding of it, which could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's how it works. Their server basically operates as kind of like a chat server, and so you communicate with the other parties to the CoinJoin transaction through their chat server. But the problem there is the other parties, the other people you're doing the CoinJoin with, still know where you're sending the coins to, right? Because you still have to upload your inputs, and then you have to upload your outputs, and they can see who sent the inputs and who sent the outputs. So you have to worry that, you know, you might, if you get in a CoinJoin transaction with someone who's like keeping logs or, you know, entering the transaction to try and de-anonymize people, that they know where your coins are being sent. And so with Dark Wallet, they try to mitigate the damage by just limiting all mixes to two-party mixes. So it's just you and one other person. And so that a couple of things. That other person does know where you sent your coins to, but it also means you're not getting a really great mix. If you want to get a good mix, then you have to make, what, you know, 50 transactions or more. You know, you just have to keep mixing over and over and over and over again, incurring transaction fees all along the way. So this coin shuffle protocol that Tim Ruffin came up with, it's a way to do CoinJoin. You're basically using kind of like layered encryption, similar to onion routing, kind of, with some shuffling of the inputs and outputs involved. And it's a way that you can do a CoinJoin where the other participants won't be able to determine who sent, you know, what inputs go to what outputs. So they won't know, you know, what coins are going where, which is kind of, people had kind of been looking for ways to do this, and there was talk of using some kind of more obscure cryptography that is not really, there's no like really good libraries or anything where you could use that. But this is a pretty simple solution that just uses regular cryptography, nothing advanced. And so when Tim posted on the Bitcoin mailing list, he said he was, you know, looking to try to get someone to implement this in a wallet. So I kind of emailed him back and I was like, hey, I have a wallet, you know, ready to go, and if you want to, you know, work with me. So I've had some conversations with him back and forth, and actually haven't heard from him in like a month or so. So I got to email him again. But one of the problems is, what do you use as the communication channel? So like Dark Wallet is just using their server as like a chat server for people to communicate with, and that's not really a great option because you don't want everyone doing their CoinJoin through a single server. You know, everyone who's doing CoinJoin transactions routed through a single server, it's like a single point of failure. Kind of goes against sort of the peer-to-peer principles of Bitcoin. You know, I'm looking around for, and I emailed Tim. I was like, "What do you have in mind for a communication channel?" And he's like, "Well, that's kind of the difficult part. You know, that really wasn't within the scope of our paper." So I'm like looking around for different things that I can use. I mean, you can use IRC, but that kind of sucks. You could maybe use BitMessage, but BitMessage has this proof of work in it, which would slow up the communications, and the protocol would run really slow. So I just basically came to the conclusion that there's no good communication channels out there, and so if you want to do it right, might as well write one from scratch. So I started writing a completely peer-to-peer communication network just for CoinJoin. So, and the network, we're going to have kind of like how you have Bitcoin D, when you have Bitcoin D nodes kind of form like the backbone of the Bitcoin network. Where I'm going to have, these are going to be CoinJoin D. And we're going to have some DNS seeds, and people can run a CoinJoin relay if they want, and then the CoinJoin will be built into the wallet, and the wallet will act as a relay as well. And the peer-to-peer network's primarily going to be for discovering other participants who want to mix their coins. And then once you discover that, then the participants are kind of going to go off and then run the CoinJoin or CoinShuffle protocol. They'll make direct connections to themselves and then run the protocol that way. So this is like, you know, what I'm hoping is kind of like the CoinJoin implementation that we've all kind of been waiting for. Like, because at this point, you know, we've known how to do this, or we've known, you know, about like coin mixing, CoinJoin for a really long time. Just no one's ever actually made like a really good implementation of it. And so that's kind of what I'm working on. I already have most of the networking stuff is kind of already done, or maybe like 50% done. But I also want to make it so we already have the wallet is connecting, making outgoing connections over Tor. The CoinJoin is going to do the same thing. It's going to connect to other peers over Tor. But you also have the other problem of if you want to receive incoming connections over Tor, then you have to operate as a hidden service. And so I'm working on getting it to automatically configure the wallet as a hidden service to take incoming connections over Tor. So the whole CoinJoin peer-to-peer network would be run over Tor. 6 hops over the Tor network, 3 hops to the rendezvous point, and then another 3 hops to the other peer. So I think when this is done, I'm hoping, I don't know, maybe by mid-next year, early mid-next year, I might have a first version ready to go. This is kind of a lot of work doing this, but I think it's going to be kind of the CoinJoin implementation that I think at least we were hoping would come around eventually.
Oops, I was muted there. That's awesome. So you're really wanting to do a lot with this, and I think your screen share is still on. You may want to exit that so we can see you again. But yeah, that's really awesome. Are there any other kind of wallet innovations that other people are working on that you may want to implement, or that maybe you're just going to let them do? Because it sounds like you're really busy, right now working on this. So any other projects that you're excited about?
I don't know. There are people who are kind of doing the sort of same thing, but a little bit differently. Making it so, it's the wallet is private and, is not, is privacy data is really difficult, and I think a lot of these other wallets that are out there, with the exception of are kind of just making a service kind of for like the average person who might not care about it, and that's actually like easy to do. That's making an Android wallet or something like this. I don't want to say easy because people do put a lot of work into it, but I'm trying to make it so that this, like, right out of the box, you just open it up and use it, and you don't have to worry about leaking privacy data or how it works. So I don't know, the guys at Dark Wallet are doing some cool stuff, but they're taking like an entirely different approach. Like there's a server-based, our wallet's peer-to-peer. Like I said, they have that kind of simple CoinJoin implementation, 2-party mixes. It's pretty easy to do. I've started is extremely complex, like full-blown peer-to-peer CoinJoin. They wrote an entire kind of re-implementation of the Bitcoin protocol with their, or Amir did with the libitcoin, and running on their Obelisk server, whereas mine is just porting the standard kind of Bitcoin D nodes. So it's like different stuff. Like I said, I'm trying to fix the bloom filtering implementation. They're trying to use something called prefix filtering to kind of do the same thing. I'm not exactly sure how they're approaching it, but it's like a different approach overall. So, but I guess maybe the big difference is they're kind of branding it as sort of like the underground anarchist wallet. And I mean, if anarchists want to use our wallet, they can certainly feel free to. But this is kind of just intended to be kind of a wallet that anyone can use and not have to jump through a bunch of hoops in order to use it privately.
That's great. That's really I mean, I think it's definitely needed, and and you kind of you don't have to sacrifice a whole lot to have that privacy either. That's really necessary. So, because I know that's kind of an issue with people too. You don't want to sacrifice too much. Either way. So it seems very balanced, actually. So, are you working? you're probably going to be on this project a while. Do you have any others in mind, maybe, any outside of Bitcoin, or maybe other projects that are maybe conceptual at this point that you might want to work on in the future?
Um, I don't know if someone wants to pay me to work on some projects. I'm more than happy to do that because I've been working for free on this for a while. Um, yeah, I'd love to be able to devote full time to it. So I don't know. I don't have anything else on the plate, but we are kind of looking at maybe getting some funding for this project. I know Alon talked to some real, so he talked to some kind of Israeli sort of venture capitalist people. So I don't know. We'll see if anything comes out of that. I would like to just be able to work kind of full time for like a year and see what happens, because just working part time, a couple hours a day, able to accomplish a lot just doing that. So I think working full time, I'd be able to accomplish quite a bit. And then I don't know if someone wants help with any other projects and they're looking for a developer. I'm certainly available.
Awesome. Well, definitely check out the app. You can test it out. It is, I just had it written down here, bitcoinauthenticator.org, right?
Yep.
Double check. All right, yes, that's right. Bitcoinauthenticator.org. Check that out. Do you have any final thoughts today, Chris?
No, just keep in mind if you do use the wallet or the Android app, it's still alpha version. There's bugs in it. I wouldn't use it. I ideally would use it on the test network. Because if you use it on the mainnet, there's a possibility you might lose your coin. So if you do use it on the mainnet, just keep it to a really tiny amount of coins, just some pocket change. And then hopefully in a couple weeks, a month or so, version out, and eventually hopefully by the end of the year we'll have a version that I can say, okay, you guys can start using it for on the mainnet.
Awesome. And where else can people keep up with your work?
What's that?
Where else can people keep up with your work? Where can they?
We got to cut out. I don't know if you can still hear me or not.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. Yeah, you can. I have some blog posts. Some of my better blog posts are up on Bitcoin.bombs. People can check that out there. I also have a little WordPress website that I haven't updated since the beginning of the year. But I'd like to start blogging again. That's chrispacia.wordpress.com. And then we just have our website for this project is bitcoinauthenticator.org.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Chris. It's always good to talk to you, and I'm really excited about the prospects for this app. I'm going to be checking it out, testing it out myself, and yeah, it's going to be great. At the moment, I don't have a guest for next week, so it's going to be a bit of a surprise as to who's going to be on Crypto Convos, but definitely tune in anyway. I'll be doing the show, so check that out, and until next time, keep calm and encrypt on.